Okay. Right. So we will begin by dedicating this presentation to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Jayatam Shurato Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Mat Sarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyat Vrindaranyo Kalpadrumadaha Srimat Ratnagado Simhasanosto Sriman Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prashtalibihi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Statastitaha Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinata Shriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Viraye Dharma Projito Kaitavo Atra Paramo Nirmat Saranam Satam. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth. This Bhagavata Purana is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. From the welfare of all such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparayishvaraha Sadhyo Hridi Avarudyate Atra Kritibihi Susrushadishtakshanat. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigamakal Galitam Padam Sukam Pradam Vritatravasamham Nigata Bhagavatam Rasamanam Mukurapumu Rasika Bhuviharaha Nastaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasoke bhaktir bhavatir nashtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishihi Nishreyasaya lokasya dhanyam swasti ayanam mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Me ananda vishaya matir madhupati asakrit ratim utvahatat ada ghange vaugam mudandati. O Lord of sweetness, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Narasimhaya Name Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Rangaya Kimhirim Yaktapa Tamam Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna, everyone. Hopefully had a good week. So today we are continuing with chapter 2, the Lord in the Heart. So we are now in part 4. So we will have one more part 5, and then we will complete this chapter, right? So I will just go through what we have covered before in this chapter, right? So this chapter we heard about Lord Brahma's prayers, right? We heard an example of how Lord Brahma prayed to the Virat Rupa. So in this chapter, we are going to talk about two things: the Virat Rupa Yogi and the Paramatma Yogi. So as I've mentioned before, there are 3 levels of absolute truth. The supreme absolute truth is to be understood in 3 levels. The first level is called Brahman. That means we understand that everything is spirit, everything is spiritual. I'm spiritual, you're spiritual. The material, even material nature is considered to be spiritual because it's coming from the Supreme Lord only. So the moment we realize that, so it begins by understanding that we are Atma. So once we know we are Atma and we have realized that, we see Atma everywhere. We see that same Atma is made out of the material. Try, you can imagine it this way. The Atma is made out of a particular material. This material is spiritual and it is called Brahman. And everything, even material nature, it's also coming from that Brahman only. And so in this way, everywhere is Brahman. So one understands that he is eternal and he is transcendental to the material nature. But that is just the first level, and it's not the complete level. Because in this situation, the person, the yogi, understands that he is eternal. He has appreciated the eternity feature of the Lord. The Lord has 3 primary features called eternity, also known as Sat, all cognizance or omniscience. That means he knows everything. All knowledge, that is called Chit, and all bliss, ever expanding bliss, which is called Ananda. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Now in Brahman, there is no Ananda and there is no Chit. There is only Sat, eternity. So one has attained that. Now, beyond Brahman, there is the second level of the absolute truth. That is called Paramatma. So even Brahman is localized. Everything, like Brahma is called Brahma Jyoti. Jyoti means light. So everything, including light, has a source. So this source is reflected by the various localized features of the Lord. So just like how light fragments into different rays, so in this way, the features of the Lord are you can find it in every atom. So that feature of the Lord is called Paramatma. So Paramatma expands himself, the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, he expands himself locally in the material world. There is no Paramatma in the spiritual world. There is only Paramatma in the material world. It's coming from Shirodakashayi Vishnu. Try to imagine it this way. Shirodakashayi Vishnu is situated in the material world, and he is surrounded by many tiny mirrors. And in each of these mirrors, the reflection of Shirodakashayi Vishnu is represented. So that the totality of all the mirror fragments which reflect individually the Shirodakasha Vishnu, that is to be understood as Paramatma. So each one of that image is Paramatma. So that is a higher realization. And because Paramatma is all pervading, he's everywhere and he's localized, he is within every living entity and in every atom and even the space between the atom. So therefore he is all cognizant. He knows everything, omniscient. So one who has realized Paramatma, he is to be understood as the Chit potency. He has understood, he has realized the Sat potency and he has realized the Chit potency. But only Bhagavan has the full complete set of Sat, Chit and Ananda. And who is this Sat, Chit and Ananda? That is Ishvaraha, Paramaha, Krishnaha. He is Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vigraha. Right? And he is Anadir, Adir, Govinda. He is the eternal, ever existing, the oldest, the cause, the original, Anadir, Adir, Govinda. Sarva Karana Karanam. And the root for all, the cause for all causes. So this is the personality of Godhead. So in this chapter, we won't be talking about Bhagavan as per se, because that will come in the next chapter. So here we have, in earlier chapter 1, we have covered the Virat Rupa, and now we have covered the Paramatma. So we are still continuing. We are going to discuss both the yogis, the Paramatma yogi and the Virat Rupa yogi. Okay. So in this chapter, it was all based on questions and answers. So one of the questions that Parikshit Maharaj has asked Sukadev Goswami is, what should a dying man do? So then, to answer that, Sukadev Goswami says, well, in the first chapter itself, he told about how one should not, first of all, one should be spiritually inclined. One should not be only thinking that material life is everything. So in other words, one should not become a Grahamedi, one who is focused only in his material gains and sense gratification. So that one should not be. One should have some spiritual inclination into what is spirit, what is eternity, who is the creator, what is my relationship with the Lord. So this kind of understanding, one should have some uh, inquisitiveness into this. And then he says, well, what's the purpose of religion? The purpose of religion, of course, there are many purposes. People follow religion out of fear. That's the lowest level, right? Then they follow religion out of gain. They want to gain things. So there are people who want to gain material things in the material world, within our world. Some people, we want to get money, we want to get position, we want to get power, we want to get beauty, we want to get health, we want to get, all these various things, intelligence, popularity. So all these things are there. So people take up to religion for these purposes. But higher than that, right? So there are even people who want to, even materialistic desires also. It's not limited to only within this world. There are even greater material things to be enjoyed in the higher planetary systems. So therefore, Sukadev Goswami rejects this. This is not the reason for religiosity. So even in this material world, forget about this material world. We are not do not be interested even in attaining swarga. So not karma kanda for swarga. So that is also not what a dying man should aim for. Instead, what should he aim for? Right? So he says, reject the yoga, reject pravriti marga, the path of sense gratification, right? Which is prescribed in the Vedas, and take to the path of renunciation or the yogic path, which is called the nivriti marga, the path of detachment. So in this path of detachment, right, broadly, there are two categories. One category is the Astanga Yoga category, where the yogi meditates, right? Mechanically, there's a mechanical system, and he focuses his attention on either the Virat Rupa or in the, later I will mention something else. Uh, so anyway, but the other yogi is Bhakti Yogi. So now, between the two, right, in this chapter, we are going to focus more on the yogi who is meditating, but mixed with a little bit of bhakti. So it says, reject this and take up Nivritti Marga. And so therefore there is two types. There is the Virat Rupa Dharana Ashraya. Dharana means concentration. The yogi who does concentration. So when he takes up the Ashtanga Yoga process, so there are 8 steps to this. One is yama, niyama, the do's and the don'ts. So there are many rules to follow. And then there is asana, to sit, to practice various positions and asanas. They're called asanas, just so that they can sit for hours without disturbance. So to condition the body so the body doesn't disturb them. And then there is pranayama, to control you have conquered the body, but you have not conquered the mind. So pranayama, breathing, to control the breathing method, which first of all creates a still environment in the mind. It reduces all the agitation and everything. So that is attained by pranayama. So once that is done, then the yogi wants to withdraw his sense objects. He doesn't want all his senses, the hearing, the seeing, the touching, the feeling. He doesn't want to, because currently our senses are open to the environment. So and something comes in front of our eyes, we can see. Something comes in front of if some sound comes, we can hear, right? So then this process of pratyahara is going inwards. It's to change the orientation of the senses from outwards towards inwards. That means focus is no longer outward environment. That means we become blind, deaf, and dumb to the external environment. We focus them inside, within the body. So that is pratyahara. And then comes dharana. Dharana is concentration. So somebody has to concentrate on something. So it's not that the Buddhists concentrate on nothing, the Brahmavadis concentrate on light, right? But even better than light is which is described in this chapter 2, light is very abstract, how to concentrate on light. So therefore, one should concentrate on the on creation. So there's Virat Rupa. So the yogi should concentrate on the Virat Rupa. You remember the universal structure and to remember the Lord in this way. So this is the first level of connection with the personal feature of the Lord. So from nothing, from nothing to light, from light towards to some semblance of the form of the Lord, by remembering him in various parts of the universe. Like when you see the sun, they remember the eyes of the Lord. When they see the moon, like that. So in this way, one understands the Virat Rupa. But beyond the Virat Rupa is what we call the Paramatma. So Paramatma Dharanasya. So in this chapter 2, the Paramatma was described. We heard about how the Paramatma looked, four-armed form, carrying the lotus, chakra, and the gada, and Sankha Chakra Gada Padma, right? So these four, it's dressed in yellow dhoti, very brilliant with all the jewels. So he was described in this way in a very detailed manner, from feet all the way to the head, so that the yogi can meditate on Paramatma in this way. So it is understood that Virat Rupa concentration, to concentrate on the universal form of the Lord, is meant for the beginner yogi, the dhyana yogi, the meditating yogi who is beginner, right? So they progress, right? So in the beginning, they meditate on the Virat Rupa. Because until they come to the Virat Rupa platform, their progress is checked. They cannot go further. So even if they meditate on nothingness, they cannot go beyond the Viraj river. There is nothingness. So in the Vedic practitioners, they don't meditate on nothingness. They meditate on something, right? So the Brahmavadis meditate on light, but light is helpful to advance, but one cannot get liberated until there is some connection with the Lord in terms of meditation. So one has to connect it with the form of the Lord. So it begins with Virat Rupa. So when one meditates on Virat Rupa, then there is tangible advancement. The Dhyana yogi has a hope of liberation. at the end of this meditation. Now, if the dhyana yogi is more fortunate, from Virat Rupa, right, he can switch further when he develops a further when he goes inward and meditates within further, he begins to focus on the Paramatma. So then that is called Paramatma Dharana. So this is meant for the advanced yogi. So in the beginner, when the yogi is detached, is not attached. Sorry, he is not detached yet. He still has material desires. So when he has material desires, then the dhyana yogi is advised to meditate on the Virat Rupa. So by meditating on the Virat Rupa, eventually, when he switches to Paramatma, then he can leave. He can become desireless. His material desires will fall away because the more he concentrates on the Lord, this is what happens. That's what spiritual life does for us. If we want to know we are advancing in our spiritual life, one of the easiest things to measure is we ask ourselves, how attached are we to all the material things? How attached are we? How much material desires do we have still? How strong are they? So the more strong the material desires are, the more that we are attached. So this means that we are not making sufficient advancement. So, right. So that's what spiritual life is for. That's what we do. Chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You remember in the fourth verse of the Sikshashtakam, after chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, what does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pray? He says, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye, Mama Janmane Janmaneshware, Bhavatad Bhakti Rahaitu Twayi. It is a purification of desires and reorientation of the correct desire. That means the material desire falls away and the spiritual desire manifests. What he says, Na Danam, Na Janam, Na Sundarim. I don't want wealth, I don't want prosperity, I don't want beautiful association, whatever. I'm not interested in any of these gains, right? I only want to be your servant life after life. Mama Janmane Janmaneshware, life after life after life, I want to be your servant, O Lord. So that is the spiritual desire. So in this way, right, from Virat Rupa, they will go to Paramatma. So when Paramatma meditation it's faster than the Virat Rupa to give that person detachment. But it is also possible to be fully detached with Virat Rupa also. This meditation also process can also be detached, but it's a bit longer, takes longer. Paramatma meditation is faster than this. But not everybody may be able to switch to a personal Paramatma feature meditation. So therefore, it may be a gradual thing. So, and after that, in this chapter, the process of the Paramatma yogi was given. What is this Abhideya? Abhideya means the process. So what does the Paramatma yogi do? What are the steps that he needs to do? So it's important for us to understand all these things also, right? Why? Because nowadays Kali Yuga, many people come and say all kinds of things, and they might tell I'm a yogi, and they tell you this is. So we can understand which one is the genuine yogi and which one is not the genuine yogi. What is the genuine path and what is not. So therefore, Abhideya for Paramatma Yogi. So this was described. Remember, we were going through this session, the previous session. This yogi, all of us, we have 6 energy points within our body called the Sat Chakras. So the chakra starts from the Muladhara chakra at the base of the spine, near the groin area, right? Then it is right above the navel, another chakra, Manipura, I think. And then there is one at the solar plexus, which is above the stomach. And then there is one so 1, 2, 3, and then one near the chest, near the heart, and then one at the top of the throat, and then one at the eyes, in between the eyes, Agnya chakra. So therefore, if you remember, Paramatma, okay, before we go into that, as I was telling you earlier, let's just give a pictorial view so that we understand these 2 different types of yogi. So the dhyana yogi or the meditating yogi, right? We call them Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Why Yoga Mishra Bhakti? Because now this yogi has connected with the personal feature of the Lord. He is not just meditating on nothing. He is not just meditating on light. He is now meditating on the personal, slightly in the beginning of the connection to the personal feature of the Lord. So he is now, for example, he's meditating on the Virat Rupa. So therefore, Virat Rupa is the universal form of the Lord. So there is some personal feature to it. And therefore, he is called, there is a mixture of bhakti by the dint of this process. So mixture of bhakti is there. So therefore, yoga, mishra, bhakti. Mishra means friend. So mixed. So dhyana yoga mixed with bhakti. So that is when the doors to liberation becomes open. When there is mixture of bhakti. When there is no mixture of bhakti, it remains closed, no matter what happens. So one has to, no matter what kind of yogi he is, if he wants to attain real liberation, there has to be a mixture of bhakti to it, even a little. So the least amount of bhakti which is mixed is the Virat Rupa Dharana. So here they are meditating on the impersonal feature. We covered this nicely in the first two sessions. Now, as I mentioned, the Virat Rupa Dharana is particularly prescribed for the beginner meditating yogi when he is still very much attached. So normally they will meditate on this. So when they are a bit more advanced, they go to Paramatma Dharana. So this is meant for the advanced or detached Dhyana Yoga. Now, if the Virat Rupa yogi is fortunate, he will also switch to the Paramatma Yoga. So if he's not fortunate, he can still continue from the Virat Rupa Dharana, but we will talk about that later today, right? But if he's fortunate and able to switch into the Paramatma Dharana or Paramatma concentration, this one, the steps for this were described nicely in our previous session. So I'm just quickly recapping this. So basically, what's the purpose of this? The purpose of all yoga is to control the mind initially by method of the mind. Because Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, right? The mind can be our greatest friend or our greatest enemy. So the whole point of yoga is to convert our mind to become our greatest friend. So by the help of our greatest friend, we can transcend this material creation and connect with the supreme being, supreme personality of Godhead. So mind is the key, but to control the mind, one needs to use intelligence. So the intelligence needs to be purified. So first we have to hear. So in the devotional process also it's the same thing, right? So in bhakti yoga, instead of hearing directly, in meditating yoga, hearing is not stressed. Instead, meditation is stressed. So in meditation, they try to control the mind by artificially controlling the body by position, and by controlling the air within the body by breathing control. So it is more difficult and it is very mechanical, and it is followable, right? But still, it's possible. So anyway, once they control the mind, right, that means they have attained Paramatma already. If the yogi, by practice of Paramatma Dharana, manages to control the mind, how do you know they have controlled the mind? They have no more material desires, right? So that means they have already attained the Paramatma feature of the Lord. So then what happens? At that point, the yogi, he decides to quit the body. So what he does, he blocks in the body, there are 9 holes, right? We talked about this in the previous session. So he blocks all the holes within his body, and then he concentrates on raising his prana. Prana is the life air from the lower chakra. Now, someone who's already Paramatma yogi, he doesn't have the prana at the lower chakra. It's already up in the stomach, at least the stomach or the chest. But for normal people, usually the prana is concentrated on the groin area, the lower chakra or the stomach chakra, mostly, right? Of course, it's everywhere, but the concentration is more here. But for the Paramatma yogi, he is able to bring it up. When he reaches Paramatma level, he's already at the chest level. So then from there, he concentrates further and brings the prana higher and higher until it comes to the area in between the eyes, in the center between the eyes there. And then he blocks all the holes in the body, the ears, the nose, the eyes, the everything. And then he forces the Atma to come out with the prana from the top of his head. So there is a small opening, it's called the Brahmarandra. When babies are born, you can feel that opening. There's a soft spot in the top of the head of babies usually. The three bones of the skull haven't connected yet when they are born. But as they grow, the connection firms up and there's no more gap. But still, there is a possibility of a gap opening it up again. So now he forces the Atma to come out from the center of his head, from the Brahmarandra. So that's how the yogi leaves the body. So, and so by pure intelligence, what he does before he leaves the body, by pure intelligence, he merges the mind. So as I mentioned earlier, we use the intelligence to control the mind, right? So by pure intelligence, purified intelligence, due to his yogic processes, he now dilutes the mind. So the mind, if you remember, is a material element. So the mind material element is now diluted into the Atma because the mind has been cleaned and has been made to reflect the Atma. Remember in Sikshashtakam, we say Cheto Darpanam Arjunam. So what does chanting Hare Krishna do for us? It cleanses the mirror of the heart or the mirror of the mind. So when the mirror of the mind or the heart is clean, it will reflect the soul, right? So that's what is happening here also. So the mind now reflects the Atma. So since it purely reflects the Atma, we can now melt the mind away, dilute the mind into the Atma by using intelligence, which has been purified. So this is what chanting Hare Krishna also does for us, right, at the time of death. So merging the Atma, after that, once the mind is diluted or merged into the Atma, then the Atma is merged into the Brahman. That's when he realizes that he is eternity. So this stage of liberation, of attaining Brahman liberation, right? It is called Labdo Pashanti. So he, in this state, right, he hasn't left the body yet, but in his mind, he's already liberated in the mind, within the body. So this is called Jivan Mukta. Within the body itself, he is liberated. Now he can either leave the body or he can move around in the body as a liberated person. Up to him lah. So this is called Labdo Pashanti, when the three modes of material nature no longer affect him and time also no longer affects him. So then at this stage, if he wants to exit the body, right, because he wants to attain Sayujya Mukti. Sayujya Mukti means merging with the Brahman. So then he can exit to achieve Sayujya Mukti. But if he is more fortunate, if he feels attraction to the Paramatma, at this point he has a choice to make. So, once he has already attained Paramatma, he has a choice which he can make, the Ashtanga Yogi. He can either pursue further, because at this stage, the yoga process is mixed with a little bhakti. Just a little bhakti. It's not so much of bhakti, right? Because he doesn't do service to the Paramatma. He's just concentrating on the Paramatma. Paramatma is also inert, doesn't do anything, doesn't reciprocate with the yogi. So at this point, he has realized that the Supreme Being is a person. Now, what shall I do now? Shall I just, okay, never mind. I've realized he's a person. Okay, we're all very nice, but I just want to escape from everything. I just want to merge into nothing, into the eternity. If he feels he wants to do like that, then he can go into the Sayujya Mukti, become Brahma Jyoti, part of the Brahma Jyoti. But if he feels, oh, this supreme person, wow, I'd like to know more about him. Wow, he's so wonderful. I think I'd like to do something for him, or I would like to know more about him. So if he thinks that way, then he won't go into Sayuja Mukti and he will transcend into Bhakti Yoga. So, and he may accept Vaishnava Mukti. Vaishnava Mukti are the 5 types. There are 5 types of liberation, and 4 of them are accepted. The 5th one is rejected by the Vaishnavas. The 5th one, which is rejected by the Vaishnavas, is called Sayuja Mukti, the liberation merging into the Brahman. So, what are the other 4 which are accepted? One is Shrishti. Shrishti means getting the same opulence as the Lord. The other one is Salokya, living in the same planet with the Lord. The other one is Samipya, interacting directly with the Lord. And the 4th one is Sarupya, getting the same form as the Lord, just like the Vishnu Dutas, right? So these are the different types of liberation, which they may accept or they may not. So here they will accept. Usually the Ashtanga Yogi, if he wants to, he can accept this, right? So what's the difference? The difference is in Sayujya, there is no more, he temporarily covers his identity and becomes part of eternity. And he doesn't do there's no activity. So, whereas a Vaishnava liberation has activity. Either he's in the same planet, or in the same opulence or in the same form. So, point is, he has a spiritual body in which he can perform activity. Whereas in Sayuja Mukti, there is no form, there is no spiritual form. So there's no activity that they can do. So anyway, so Vaishnavas accept this kind of liberation and they will go into the spiritual world, right? So that is the path of the Ashtanga Yogi if he wants to gain liberation. So 2 types of liberation, Sayuja or the service-based liberation. Now, what about the Virat Rupa Dharana? So this was described very nicely in chapter 2, up to the middle verse 22. Now, Sukadev Goswami also wants to complete this topic. So now he wants to speak about what happens to the Virat Rupa Dharana, the yogi who doesn't cross over to Paramatma. He remains in the Virat Rupa meditation, but he doesn't cross into Paramatma meditation either because he wasn't successful enough to see the Paramatma within himself, or he did not have sufficient association with a devotee or with a devotee mixed yogi to teach him Paramatma. So in such situation, it's still all right for him. Virat Rupa Dharana is still a bona fide process. From this meditation, he can still progress. So what is the progress here? So that is what we are going to discuss in today's chapter, in today's session. So today, quite a bit of a lengthy recap, but I was thinking we need to capture this with this chapter and see this chapter in the correct perspective, to see it in the bird's eye view of what all the verses, where do they all fall into? What picture is this chapter trying to paint for us? Right, so therefore now we will continue. I hope that is clear now, so we can understand the layout of this chapter nicely. So, Abhidheya for the Paramatma Yogi, and now we are talking about I should have changed this. And now we have Abhidheya for the other yogi, the Virat Rupa Yogi. What does he do now? Okay, so but before going into that, so here we stopped here in the last session, this particular verse. Sukadev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, however, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyments. See, I mentioned earlier that Paramatma meditation is for those who have lost interest in material enjoyments, who have become fully detached. Now, in the Virat Rupa Yogi, he has not attained this. He could have attained this also, but it's more difficult. So high chances are that he may not have attained detachment, complete detachment yet, simply by Virat Rupa meditation, although the possibility is there. So what happens, O king, if a yogi still maintains a desire for improved material enjoyment, like transference to the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, Like, let's say he harbors a desire to go to the topmost planet or any of the higher planets. So today we are going to look at the journey of the Virat Rupa Yogi. So that's what we're going to see. So what kind of what kind of material desires are there? So for a yogi like this, what kind of material desires does he still have? One is to transfer to the topmost planets, right? Or to lord over material nature with the eightfold achievements or the Ashta Siddhis. So one of the side effect of meditation is described in spiritual progress, whether it's devotional progress or meditation progress, right? One of the side effects, especially in meditating methods, one of the side effects is they get special power. This special power is called mystic siddhi. Siddhi means this special power, lah. It's like magic or control. So, and there are many, many types of special power. Sometimes we hear in the news or we see pictures like how some yogis, they can levitate, they can fly, they don't need anything to stand upon, they can walk on water, they can produce ash or milk from their hands, they can touch people and heal people of diseases. So this kind of certain kinds of power. So these are called siddhis, and it's a side effect actually. Why side effect? Because it is the last trap of Maya. Maya is trying to check, what do you really want? You want transcendental bliss, transcendental attainment, or you want material things? So in material things, this is also considered material. This is one of the highest, like going to Brahmaloka is the highest material achievement. Another very high material achievement is getting the all the mystic siddhis. In amongst all the hundreds of mystic siddhis, 8 of them are very, very prominent. The chief mystic siddhis. What are these 8? So that's why they're called Ashta Siddhi. Ashta Siddhi. And and we use these 8 powers to control material nature, to lord, to become powerful. Example, the first one is called Anima. Anima Siddhi means he has the power to become smaller than the smallest. That means he can become smaller than an atom. He can enter into atoms. And God knows what he can do inside the atom. Don't ask me. Probably make some changes within the atomic structure, and I don't know what. Right? But the point is he can escape from anything, right? He can become smaller than the smallest. Nobody can find him also. So, some of the devatas have this kind of power. Like there was one pastime when Indra, he made himself very, very small so he can enter into the stem of a lotus. So some of the devatas have some of these powers to some extent, right? So Anima is this power to become smaller than the smallest. And then opposite to that is Lagima. Lagima Siddhi means to become larger than the largest. So, or heavier, uh, no, sorry, Lagima is not largest. That's Mahima. Lagima is to become lighter than the lightest. That means lighter than the lightest thing. What is the lightest thing? Probably neutrons, not electrons or quarks or whatever. So, but to become lighter than even that means one can just fly simply with the rays of the sunlight. They can travel simply by the ray of the sunlight because they are so light. So they can make themselves this way. That's Lagima. And the other one is this one, Mahima. Mahima is to become larger than the largest or heavier than the heaviest. So this one, for example, Hanuman displayed this. He became so large that he leaped across the Mandara mountain to search for Lanka. So he can become as large as Kumbhakarna also. And so in this way, and there was one pastime where he put his tail and nobody could lift his tail. So he made his tail heavier than the heaviest. So like this, one can become very large as a planet, larger than the planet, has become larger, very, very huge, can cover the entire universe. That's so the Lord, Lord Vishnu, he also displayed this. So that's how he became Trivikrama. Trivikrama, he enlarged himself that in one step he covered the 7 planetary upper planetary systems, and in the other step he covered the lower planetary systems. So that is Lagima, sorry, Mahima. And then another siddhi is called Prapti. Now this one is very nice. People may think. Prapti siddhi is the power, you just think of what you want and you reach out with your hand and close your eyes and you grab it and it comes back. And whatever that you thought will come back with you. So for example, if you wanted the Hope Diamond, which is kept in some big bank somewhere, right? You just have to think of it, reach out, and then bring it and you have the diamond in your hand. So like this, there's a story of once Prabhupada, he met one yogi, and this yogi was had some of this prapti siddhi, little bit of it, not fully. He couldn't get everything, right? So prapti siddhi, so he could reach out. So he asked Prabhupada when Prabhupada was young, what do you want? What fruit do you want? He could take fruits from anywhere in the world. So Prabhupada said, I like pomegranate. Then he said, pomegranate. The best pomegranates are in Kabul, Afghanistan. So he reached his hand and took out, and suddenly a pomegranate appeared in his hand. So that's Prapti Siddhi. But that's just pomegranate. One can reach and get anything they want. If somebody is a master of Prapti Siddhi, any object they can just reach and take it. Even if it's in the heavenly planets. So in any part of the planetary system, they could reach and take it. So that is Prapti Siddhi. For example, if you wanted the Vajra weapon of Lord Indra, you can use Prapti Siddhi to get it. And then there's Isitwa Siddhi. Isitwa Siddhi is also very, very amazing. It is the power to create anything or to destroy anything in the world, in the universe. Isita Siddhi, so somebody who's a master in Isita Siddhi, they can create even an entire planetary system, or even an entire dimension. Like this example was shown by Vishwamitra Muni. When Vishwamitra Muni was meditating to become a Brahma Rishi, so there was some pastime where he created an entire new a planetary system for a particular person. So that is Ishitva. Can also destroy also. That is very, very powerful. Then there is Vishitva. So Vishitva Siddhi is the ability, it's like magic. It's the ability to control the material elements. That means you can control fire, you can control water, you can control earth, ether, air. Not only the gross material elements, you can also control the subtle material elements, mind, intelligence, and you can't control the false ego, but you can control other things. You can control the arrangements of the planetary system. So this kind of things, this is Vasitva Siddhi. Then there is Prakamya Siddhi. Prakamya Siddhi means to possess such power as will never be frustrated in any desire. This one is like a wish fulfilling power. Anything you desire, you will not be frustrated in your desire if you have this siddhi. Whatever you want, anything you want, you are able to attain it simply by the means of this prakamya siddhi. So don't ask me too much about the details. This is how the description was given, right? So then there is one more. This is the most powerful of all. Kama Vasayita Siddhi. This is this is a greater form of Vasit. It's like a combination of Vasitva and Prakamya, right? Able to assume any shape or form and get anything also. So you are able to attain any form. So any kind of form you can get, and you can also control material nature, and at the same time you can also get whatever wish you want. So these are the 8 major mystic powers. So now people might desire this. I think just by describing this, some of us may be thinking, oh, so nice, if we can have this kind of power. So this is the ultimate test of Maya. So someone who's in the dhyana process, devotees are protected from this because Maya will not tempt us with this kind of powers because it's very difficult to resist. If we are tempted by any of this, then we cannot go back home. We will remain in the material world. So this is the last trap of Maya. When Maya will see the yogi who is, oh, you're trying so hard to become detached, is it? You're trying so hard to lose all your interest in material thing. Now I'll give you something which let me see whether you are able to be detached or not. So Maya will tempt with these siddhis. So Prabhupada says the prime inclination of the materialistic mind is to lord it over the material world. So how will he lord it? Imagine you have these powers. It becomes very easy to lord it, right? So the devatas are invested with some of these powers. The rishis also have some of these powers in greater degree. And all the siddhis mentioned above are features of domination over the world. So the purpose of these siddhis, right, is to help us dominate the world. So therefore, in other words, is to fuel our desire to lord over. So that's the reason we are here in the material world. So Prabhupada says, on the contrary, a devotee wants to be dominated by the supreme predominator, the Lord. So it's opposite. So even though a devotee may possess all these powers, still he never wants to use them unless the Lord gives will. Like for example, Arjuna, he could use some of these powers, right? Or some that like Anuman could use. But generally, unless the Lord desires it, the devotee doesn't use all these things, right? A desire to serve the Lord, the supreme predominator, is spiritual or transcendental. So, we have little bit of money, we have little bit of wealth, we have little bit of beauty. Tamil சொல்லுவாங்க பிடிக்க முடியாதே. So some just a little bit of education, little bit of wealth, we'll be flying in the sky. Nobody will be able to catch us down. So imagine we get these kind of powers. We will be flying so much higher in the sky, cannot bring us down. So therefore, this is very dangerous. So Prabhupada says the inhabitants of those planets above Maharloka are empowered naturally with eightfold achievements of mystic perfection. So Prabhupada says there are people living in the higher planetary systems, especially Maharloka and above, where everyone there has these kind of powers naturally. They don't have to, they don't have to do meditation to get these powers. Naturally, they are having these powers over there. So imagine. So we will talk about Maharloka in a while, but let us continue with this. So, and the third one is, so we were talking about how Sukadev Goswami is giving a warning. If the yogi has any of these desires to go to Brahmaloka, to get the 8 mystic powers, or to travel in outer space with the Vaihayasas. Vaihayasas means those who are in the heavenly abodes or above, those who live in the sky, in the heavens. So like the Devatas, the Apsaras, the Gandharvas, the Rishis, the Sapta Rishis, they're all in the heavenly areas. So they are able to travel anywhere. Sometimes we hear, right? Like how the rishis came from all parts of the universe to sit with Parikshit Maharaj. So they were able to travel everywhere. Prabhupada calls them transcendental spacemen. Example like Narada, like Durvasa. So if we have such desires, or even to be situated in one of the millions of planets in the higher planetary systems, if we have the desire to be in any of these places, right, then what will happen? So before that, Prabhupada gives a point here. As inquisitive persons tour all over the world to gain direct local experience, the less intelligent transcendentalist similarly desires to have some experience of those planets about which he has heard so many wonderful things. This is a very interesting statement. Normally most people, they like to travel, isn't it? Right? So people like to travel, they like to go here, different places. So in script, traveling is good, but in scriptures, it is described that there are several ways in which we get experience and, in several ways in which we get knowledge or wisdom. So one way is we get it through senses. We use our senses, right? And the other way is by experience. So by senses and experience, we always want to increase our knowledge and our wisdom. So one of the best ways of utilizing our senses and our experience is by traveling. So when we travel to different countries, different places, we see different situations, different communities, and we collect experience, we collect senses. From our senses we collect information, and we collect experience, and that helps one to become more knowledgeable and wiser, right? But that is just one point of it. It's the scriptures describe less intelligent people, they rely on this. More intelligent people, they rely on hearing the scriptures. It's described that simply by hearing the scriptures attentively and studying the scriptures, one can get highest level of intelligence and the highest level of experience, because one attentively hears and one accepts. So whatever conclusion and understanding that we get from all our travels and our experience and our sensory perception, it is all already there in the scriptures. So if we can only accept the truth which is given in the scriptures directly, then we save a lot of our time. So that's how people like Prahlad Maharaj could become so wise right from 5 years old. They did not have to wait until they were so old. After going through, Durvasa Muni, he travels across the different planets and everything. But when he came across Ambarish Maharaj, who was he didn't travel the universe, but he was a devotee who has heard from disciplic succession. So he was wiser, so he could defeat Durvasa Muni so easily. If you remember the pastime of Durvasa Muni coming and trying to curse Ambarish Maharaj, but Ambarish Maharaj was completely protected by the Sudarshan Chakra. And in the end, Durvasa Muni had to beg forgiveness from Ambarish Maharaj only. So the point here is, yes, traveling is good, experiences are good, but if one only depends on that, then he's not very intelligent. So one should focus on hearing the scriptures. That is the ultimate intelligence which gives the. So it is therefore described in the various scriptures. If we want to become wise, what should we do? We should hear and take up the spiritual process. We should study the scriptures carefully, hear them very carefully, right? And we can become wise. So that is the promise of the scripture. So anyway, if somebody still has desires, people, we like to have desires to travel and see this country, that country, because we have heard so much about it. Imagine the yogis, imagine we hear all about this, the higher planetary systems, of all the wonders that we can find in heaven or in the higher planetary systems. So if we also develop desires to visit that, then again, we will spoil our transcendental journey. So this is some of the things. These are all traps. So this is how Maya will test us. What do you really want? You really want to serve Krishna, or you want this, or you want that? So Krishna is Maya's goal is for that. She's there to test us. Only the real, genuine persons, devotees, are allowed to enter into the spiritual world, into Krishna's inner circle, because Krishna doesn't want fake people. He doesn't want fake people who claim that they worship. So for that, he has different places. Like there is Vaikunta, there is a material world, and different places. But in his inner circle, inner family, inner group, right? He only wants the purest devotees. So that's the process of spiritual. path. We want to purify our material desires and transfer that into spiritual desire. If only we knew the glories of spiritual desires to serve the Lord, how much wonderful it is, right? So Prabhupada says, with the materialistic mind, one can reach the best planet in the universe, but no one can enter into the kingdom of God just by these processes alone. Only by pure devotion, one can enter into the spiritual world and remain there. So therefore, in summary, I'm repeating back the same verse here so that we can see. However, O king, if a yogi maintains a desire for improved material enjoyment, like transference to Brahmaloka or achievement of the eightfold perfection, is called Asta Adipatyam. Asta Adipatyam. Asta means eight. Adi means to control. Patyam, Adipati, to control and lord over material creation. So if we have this kind of desires, or we want to be the tourist, we want to be the transcendental tourist, go on a tour guide, right, of the universe, or we want to remain in one of the places in the universe, right? If the yogi has any of these desires still at the time that he's about to leave the body, what happens? Then he has to take away with him the materially molded manasa, mind, and indriya, senses. That means he cannot dilute his mind with the Atma yet. He's not ready to do that. Remember the Paramatma yogi, he was able to merge the mind with the Atma, right? But this Virat Rupa yogi cannot merge yet because his mind is still not completely purified. There are still vestiges of material desires. So, what happens to him? So, we'll hear about that. So Prabhupada says one has to attain this purification of the mind and the senses to get admission into the spiritual kingdom. So we have to be completely free of material desires. Then only we can reach the spiritual world. Don't worry, it is achievable. It's a step-by-step process. Simply by following the spiritual path given to us, we can come to this platform, right? So the transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. So they want to be concerned with the spiritual. They're not interested in material things. So as such, by the strength of their vidya, so a real transcendentalist, he will rely on these things. By the strength of his vidya means devotional service or transcendental intelligence, right? Vidya, knowledge, tapa, by his austerity, yoga, by his practice, spiritual practice, and samadhi, by his concentration, by his meditation, right? So by his remember, like in this, these are, although this we are talking about the dhyana yogi, but the same things are also applicable for devotees also, right? Vidya, hearing process, transcendental knowledge, right? Tapa, what is our austerity? Four regulatory principles, and then what else? Ekadasi fasting, chanting Hare Krishna, which is mixture of tapa and yoga. So these are processes what we're doing, right? Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving. So all this is part of the yoga, of the devotional practice. And samadhi. The purpose of all of this is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna, right? So that's samadhi. So you can see the same parallels are there in devotional practice also. It's just that it's a lot easier in devotional bhakti yoga compared to doing it in this manner. It's simply not easy, not conducive at all in Kali Yuga, where people are so short-lived and the mind is so disturbed. So by the strength of Vidya, Tapa, Yoga, and Samadhi, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material worlds. So the yogi, the dhyana yogi, who focuses on these four, right? He is now, even though he has not uh, attained liberation yet, because he still has material desires, right? But still, he becomes very powerful by these four things which he's been doing. So what he is able to do, he is automatically able to travel across the universe unrestrictedly. So this is what it says here. One can go to even Svargaloka or even higher planetary systems by even higher planetary systems, right? So like there are many examples of the rishis who are able to travel. So these rishis, some of them are liberated, some of them are not yet liberated, right? So if they have some material desires, then this is now describing that what happens to that Virat Rupa yogi who has a little bit of material desires yet, but he's still very advanced, that he's now leaving his body. What happens to him? So what happens to him is he will get a subtle body. After he dies, he gets a subtle body, not a spiritual body still. Like Narada Muni has a spiritual body, but Durvasa Muni has a subtle body. So in that subtle body, but though it's a subtle body, it's not spiritual, it's still material. But Narada Muni, he is different than Durvasa Muni. He has a spiritual body. That's why nobody could attack Narada Muni. Narada Muni can go to any demon and go and tell the demon all kinds of things without fearing any kind of attack. Of course, naturally, Narada Muni doesn't fear because he is a devotee of the Lord, right? But at the same time, no one can harm Narada Muni because Narada's Muni is made out of spirit. And remember chapter 2, what's that verse? Na idam chindanti shastrani, na idam chindanti shastrani, na idam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayanti apo, na soshayati marutaha. The soul, the spirit, cannot be harmed by weapons, cannot be burnt by fire, cannot be moistened by water, cannot be dried by the wind. So this is the nature of spirit. So anyway, for the yogi who has material desires, he doesn't get a spiritual body yet. He gets a material body, which is subtle body, right? And this subtle body carries with him the material desires in the mind, and also carries the material conditioned senses with him. So the fruitive worker or the gross, now that is the yogi, right? So, but with that, he is able to travel across the universe. But the materialist, the one who is not a yogi, right? One who is not a yogi, the karma kandi, the materialist, he can never move in such an unrestricted manner. He is not at all like the yogi. So what, like the scientist, for example, the scientists are like the fruitive workers. They can only build rockets and spaceships, and they can probably go a short distance at great cost and great trouble, but they are not at all like the yogis who can travel unrestrictedly. So Prabhupada says, but by the strength of devotional service, austerities, mystic powers, and transcendental knowledge, everyone can also do this. So devotional service is also parallel to this. With devotional service, one can also travel like how Narada Muni is traveling, right? So if that is depend. So with this is the idea, right? So senses are called spiritually purified when they are not involved in sense gratification. So how do we know? We know mind is spiritually purified when there is no more material desire. Same thing, senses are spiritually purified when they are no longer connected to material things, but they are now connected to spiritual things. For example, when we use our eyes to admire the deities, the deity form, right? Then that is spiritual connecting of the senses. Or we use our eyes to do service for the Lord, right? That is spiritually connecting our senses. Or we use our tongue to eat and to taste the offerings, the Mahaprasadam of the Lord. That is connecting the spiritual senses. So that is what Ambarish Maharaj did. He connected all his senses, his karmindriya and jnanindriya, his working senses as well as his knowledge acquiring senses. His eyes, ears, nose, mouth, skin, and everything, those are his knowledge acquiring senses. And his hands, legs, and everything, his head, his body in the service of the Lord. So that is how we connect. So that's the secret of devotional service, because in yoga, they don't connect. They just neutralize it. Remember I was saying pratyahara. Pratyahara means they go inward. They turn the senses inwards, but it's not connected spiritually. They just temporarily put it on stasis. So there's a nice verse in the Nectar of Devotion. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. So the highest pure devotional service, right, is always engaging all our senses in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesha. So that means we use our senses to satisfy the senses of the master of the senses, who is called Rishikesha. Rishikesha is another name of Krishna. So that is the idea in devotional service. So it becomes easier compared to dhyana yoga process. Senses require engagements. And when the senses are engaged totally in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they have no chance to become contaminated by material infection. So this has to be constant. We have to constantly do this, supported with our sadhana. Then we cannot fall down. All right. So to continue, Sukadeva Goswami says, right, O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way, Milky Way. So we have heard of the Milky Way. The scientists describe the universe. Our current universe is called the Milky Way. And in Sanskrit, it is called Shushumna, by the illuminating Shushumna. Now, this is a very mystical thing. Shushumna is having two meanings. One is it refers to the Milky Way, or in other words, the universe, the path of the universe. If you want to travel in the universe, there is a path which we can travel throughout the universe, which is also called the Milky Way or the Shushumna. And this Shushumna is at the same time also existing within our body. So in our chakras arrangement, from one chakra to the next chakra, there is a line. So that line is a mystical line which connects one chakra to the next chakra. That's how the prana is lifted from one chakra to the next, right? So that line is called Sushumna, energy channel, you could say, right? And that Sushumna within our body mirrors the Sushumna or the Milky Way of the universe. So by our power of, by the Dhyana Yogi, by controlling the prana within his chakra, within his body, through the Sushumna within his body, that is how he travels across the universe. So by, it's like a switch. Within his body, he presses one switch and he's able to just go within that region of the universe. In a gross way, to say it. But it's a very mystical thing. So, O king, so this Sukadeva Goswami is describing that Dhyana yogi, the Virat Rupa yogi, who is meditating upon the Virat Rupa, who is not yet purified in his mind yet, but has reached sufficient power. He has now controlled his chakras to such an extent that when he leaves the body, he is now able to travel. He can travel within the same body, or he can leave the material body and get a subtle body, new subtle body, which he can then travel across the universe. So two ways for him to do it. So when he travels across the universe, there is a line, straight line upwards from the universe. And it is described in the scripture that this line is all connected on one particular star, one particular planet. If you go to the North Pole, or the Northern Hemisphere, there is one star called the North Star. This North Star is also called Polaris, right? And in Sanskrit, it is none other than Dhruva Loka. So this Dhruva Loka is described as the center, the pivot center of the universe. That means the entire universe, like this Milky Way, you can see it is rotating, right? This entire center, the universe is rotating upon the North Star. It's like there are invisible lines of air which connects the Dhruva Loka planet, the North Star planet, to every other planetary system in the universe, from the bottom to the top. So that is North Star. So, and the line of Sushumna, the Milky Way, connects the yogi and passes through the North Star and beyond. So we'll hear more about this. Very interesting, right? It's like science fiction now, but it's not fiction. It's the actual real reality of science. So to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka. So he passes, the yogi uses this Milky Way or Sushumna within his body to connect with the Sushumna within the universe. It's like a line which he passes through in order to reach the topmost planet or any other planet within the universe, to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka. But before he reaches the Brahmaloka, he first of all, now this next few verses is going to describe his journey before he reaches Brahmaloka. So the first stop from the world when he dies, or whether he wants to use his current material body to transfer himself, the first stop is to go to the planet of the deity of the fire god. The fire god is also called Vaishvanara, Agni, right? He's also called Vaishvanara. Vaishvanara is also the name of the planet of the fire god, Agni. So that is his first stop. So he goes to the Vaishvanara planet of the deity of fire. Why? So that he can become cleansed, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contaminations. So no more gross contaminations. What are the gross contaminations? Like kama, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, illusion, mada, madness, matsarya, envy. So he gets cleansed of all of these things and he becomes very much a dhira, a transcendentalist. Whatever little vestiges were there, because remember, he hasn't fully become liberated yet, unlike the Paramatma yogi who became liberated within the body also. But this one is a Virat Rupa yogi. So his mind is still having some small vestiges of material attachment. And because of these material attachments, he still has material impurities. So the first stop is to remove the material impurities. So therefore, he goes to fire planet, the planet of the fire god. And thereafter, after that, he still goes higher. So you can see here the line I showed you, right? The Sushumna following the Milky Way, right? The Sushumna. He follows this from Vaishvanara. He goes higher, right? Until he comes to the Sishumara Chakram. So along the way, he's passed many places. He's already passed Swargaloka, right? He's passed Bhuvarloka. He has passed the moon god's planet. He has passed the sun god's planet. And then he has come to Agni's planet. That's where he purified himself. And then he went to, it's like taking Achaman, before you enter the temple, you take Achaman, or you wash your leg. So in this way, he gets purified. He's passed Swarga, and now he's come to higher than Swarga. He's come to the center, the Sishumara chakra. This is the Sishumara chakra. Now the word Sishumara means dolphin, right? So I showed you Milky Way, Vaishvanara, Sishumara chakram. Now Sishumara means dolphin. It's very interesting. So it's described in the scripture that there are clusters of stars in the universe which represent a dolphin. So like this. So the dolphin will be facing downwards. It's like curved like this, right? Very interesting. And this dolphin is an incarnation of the Lord. Just like how it's the next level after Virat Rupa, because Virat Rupa is an imaginary form. It's a material form of the Lord, which is imaginary, which the yogi meditates upon. So before he is going to Paramatma, the next transition from Virat Rupa is this Sishumara. Sishumara is this form of the dolphin, which is actually the form of the Lord, and it is actually not, it's not illusory. Unlike the Virat Rupa, which is illusory, because no one can see everything from top planetary system to the bottom planetary system. So whereas the Sishumara, which is a connection of stars like this, like how we can draw patterns and say the stars have the shape of certain stars, like Libra, like Scorpio, like Gemini, Cancer, this kind of constellations they form. If you draw lines across them, you can form shapes on it. So in the same way, this is Sishumara, which forms the dolphin. And it is actually present, it is actually there. So it is actually the incarnation of the Lord, which everybody can see. So particularly the yogis, the higher, we can't see so clearly. Whereas the yogis and the heavenly beings, they can see this actually. So the Lord, and it is seen as the Lord itself, represents the Lord. So now from illusory Virat Rupa, they are now able to focus on the actual system of the Sishumara, the dolphin, which is the Lord. Now, this dolphin, the at the tip of the tail, which is over here at the top here, this is where Dhruva Loka is, the North Star. So the North Star or Dhruva Loka, right, is here, and moving downwards is all the other planetary systems, Swarga Loka. Somewhere in the middle of the body is Swarga Loka, and then below is the other lokas, like that, right? So the North Star is very interesting. It is actually, we can see it also if we go to the northern hemisphere, particularly. We can see the North Star. Even from Malaysia, sometimes we can see, right? And it is especially if you go to the North Pole, you can see that the North Star doesn't move its position. So therefore, since time immemorial, the North Star has been used as a constant fix in navigation. When people want to travel, that time they didn't, its navigation charts were there. They used to focus on the North Star because the North Star's position never changes. It's fixed. And it seems like as if everything else is rotating around the North Star. Like, for example, just now I showed you one picture, North Star. Let me show you the North Star. This one, right? So the North Star, right? It's so around the constellation of the North Stars are some constellations called the Big Dipper. So it looks like a chankul, like a dip, like a bucket with a handle. So there are constellations of stars like this, and the North Star is always at the center. It never changes. So during springtime, you'll see the Big Dipper over here. During summer, you'll see the Big Dipper over here. During winter, so like that, the Big Dipper changes, rotates around, and it rotates around the North Star. So other stars, other constellations rotate, but the North Star alone doesn't rotate. It remains fixed at that point. So this is scientific also, right? It's accepted by science. And this is actually what is Dhruva Loka. And it is described that in Dhruva Loka, it connects all the other planetary systems in the world. So it's described, this Sishumara is the pivot for the turning of the complete universe. And it is called Vishwanabhim. Nabhim means the navel, and Vishwa means the universe, the navel of the universe, or the navel of Lord Vishnu. So Vishwa also represents Vishnu. So navel of Lord Vishnu. Which Vishnu? This is not Shirodakashayi Vishnu because he's a localized Vishnu form. This is actually Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, from which navel the lotus stem came, from which Brahma was born. So in other words, where is the navel of the Lord? The navel of the Lord is at Dhruva Loka. And from Dhruva Loka, a lotus comes from there, and from there Lord Brahma is born. So the lotus actually goes higher than Dhruva Loka. So therefore, this is also another name for this is Vishwanabhim. So it's the pivot for the turning of the complete universe. So like this, imagine Dhruva Loka is at the top spot, right? And there are invisible lines of air which connects, or gravitation, which connects every planet which is situated in a dimension. Each dimension is called a mandala, like this. So, and they are all rotating, and you can see here, this is the dolphin, right? At the tip of the tail of the dolphin, right, it connects. So this is how the universe is rotating. Very, very interesting study, right? More details of this will come in fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about the different parts of the universe. Very, very fascinating. The yogi alone goes beyond the circle of Sishumara. So karma kandis cannot go further than this. So Swarga Loka is at the body of the Sishumara here, right? But the Sishumara chakram, so the radius of dimension which forms across the body of this dolphin is called the chakram. And in the center of the chakram is the foremost planet, Dhruva Loka, where Dhruva Maharaj resides. And the Lord is also there, sitting there. And you know something? Shirodakashayi Vishnu, the localized form of the Lord, Shirodakashayi Vishnu, the one who's, Shiro means the ocean of milk, right? Who resides in the ocean of milk, is in there, is in Dhruva Loka. In this region, Sishumara Chakram, in that region, there is an ocean of milk, and in that ocean of milk, there is Shweta Dweep. The island in the ocean of milk is called Shweta Dweep, and in that island, there is Shirodakashayi Vishnu residing on Sesha. So that is the position of the universe. So the yogi alone goes beyond the Shishumara. So this is the Shishumara Chakram. It's over here at the tip of the dolphin's tail. And higher, so as I said, this is where the navel of Lord Vishnu is. So from here, the lotus flower comes, the lotus stem comes. So along the stem, there are higher planetary systems called Maharloka, Janarloka, Tapoloka, and the top one is the lotus, which is Brahmaloka. Later we will see. So in this verse, continues, Sukadev Goswami says, the yogi alone can go beyond the Sishumara Chakram and attain the planet of Maharloka. So he gets situated in Maharloka. So although Maharloka is situated higher than Dhruvaloka, we should not think that Maharloka is greater than Dhruvaloka. Dhruvaloka is greater than even Brahmaloka, because the Lord himself resides there. And this is the navel of Lord Vishnu. Okay, but nevertheless, in terms of geography, the universal geography, the position is just the geographical position. Maharloka is higher. This is the center. It has to be in the center. It cannot be in the top. It's the center. So even Maharloka rotates from the pivot of the Dhruvaloka. That means Maharloka is also connected by a line to the pivot over here. Same thing, Janaloka, Tapoloka, and Brahmaloka at the top. So the yogi goes to Maharloka, where purified saints like Bhrigu enjoy Kalpa Ayushaha. Kalpa Ayushaha means the lifetime of one day of Brahma, of one Kalpa. That means the people in Maharloka, they live there for as long as one Kalpa, the day of Brahma. One day of Brahma is 4.3 billion Earth years. Right? So that's one day of Brahma. So that's how long people in Maharloka live. For 4.3 billion years. Not million, billion. That's one day of Brahma. 1,000 Yuga cycles. This planet of Maharloka is worshipable even for saints who are transcendently situated. So a lot of this is where the destination of yogis, right? But amongst the saints also, amongst the yogis, this is the lowest of the yogi planets, Maharloka. So it's described in Maharloka, everybody there has the 8 siddhis in full. The 8 siddhis, I mentioned the Ashta siddhis, Anima, Lagima, Mahima, and all that, Prapti. So they have them in Maharloka, higher than even the Devatas. They are more powerful than even Indra. So, but they are sages, they are transcendental. They don't have lust, anger, greed, all these things. So they are dhiras. They are focused entirely on transcendental realization. So they do not misuse their powers at this stage, Maharloka. And at the time of now, even Maharloka is not eternal. So at the time of the final devastation of the complete universe, what happens? So at this time, there is the flame of fire emanates from the mount of Ananta, right? So therefore, fire comes. At the bottom of the universe, Ananta Sesh is holding the entire universes on his head. So when the time of annihilation comes, fire comes from the Ananta Sesh's mouth, and this fire engulfs the entire universe. So the entire universe is burning in the. So what happens? All the lower planetary systems are destroyed. Earth, Bhuloka is destroyed. Heavenly planet Swargaloka is destroyed, and even Maharloka gets destroyed. When does this happen? Now, this happens at the end of a day of Brahma. So, one day of Brahma, all of this gets destroyed. So, after that, Brahma goes to sleep. And then the next day, he wakes up, he again creates the planetary systems. So, all the planetary systems up to Maharloka gets destroyed. So the yogi who is sitting in Maharloka, he sees all the planets of the universe burning to ashes and the fire racing towards Maharloka. So at that point, what he does is they will all move. So Maharloka gets destroyed, and thus he leaves for higher planetary systems. So they may go to Janaloka, Tapaloka, or Satyaloka. Satyaloka is the topmost, where Brahma is living. Now, the Sishumara Chakram doesn't get destroyed. It's just that all the planets there gets destroyed, but Dhruva Loka still remains there. It doesn't get destroyed. But people can't go to Dhruva Loka. Even the yogis, not easy for them to go to Dhruva Loka. They cannot stay there. They can only visit the ocean of milk and then they have to leave. So they would want to go to Satyaloka. How do they go to Satyaloka? By airplanes used by the Siddheshwaras. So up to Maharloka, they don't need airplanes. They can go on their own using the Sushumna, the Milky Way within their body. But beyond that, they need the power of the special aircrafts like UFOs. I'm just putting a picture of a UFO here. So the Siddheshwaras, the master of the yogis, they go, this is the way in which one can enter into Brahmaloka. So special airplanes, Prabhupada translates it as, right? And in this way, they attain Brahmaloka as they see the lower planetary systems get destroyed. And when they attain Brahmaloka, they now have a new lifespan. They remain in Brahmaloka. So you can see here the duration of life in Satyaloka. Satyaloka is also called Brahmaloka, right? Is calculated to be, what is this number? 15.48 trillion years. This is trillion. This is 100,000. This is million. This is billion. This is trillion. 15.48 trillion years. This is the life of Brahma. So Brahma lives for 100 Brahma years. And 1 day of Brahma is 4.3 billion earthly years. So like that, he lives for 100 years. So 365 days times 100, right? Times 4.3 billion. That gives you this one, 15.48 trillion years. So that is the full lifetime of Brahma. And whoever who lives in Brahma Loka, they have to also live this long, right? So they cannot die. There's no death in between before this. So they have to live up to this many years. So if you fancy living for this long, then we can go to Brahma Loka. So still not liberated, still not liberated yet. So now they come to Brahma Loka. what happens next? What happens to the yogi after this? So we will find this out in our next session. That will be our last session for chapter 2, right? So let's find out what happens to the Vishwarupa Dhyana Yogi. The Paramatma Yogi automatically achieves, we already heard about how he achieves Brahman. And from there he can go to the Vaikuntha planets also, right? This one is the Vishwarupa Yogi, and he transfers from Vishwarupa to Sishumara, to the dolphin, the transcendental dolphin, the incarnation of the Lord, right? And from there he elevates himself to Brahmaloka. And from Brahmaloka, what is his next journey to liberation or to attain the spiritual world? So we'll hear about that. Okay? So with that, let us chant Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time and for your patience. So any questions, anyone? Anything you have to ask, clarify?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Dandava pranams to you.
You not only confuse us, you also confuse the scientists, Prabhu.
Mm.
Prabhu, actually, coming back to this, our ISKCON, we are trying to teach people to chant 16 rounds, and then we talk about back to Godhead, back to Godhead. But after hearing today's class, before we can reach to Milky Way, so much of resist to go through the Milky Way.
Yeah.
And how
That's
to
why
reach
we are not.
just by chanting.
That's what, yeah, that's what I was saying. This is not for devotees. This is the path of the meditating yogi. There's the meditating, the dhyana path and the bhakti path. So this is what happens to those dhyana yogis who takes the meditating path. They have to go through all this. They have to go through all this.
Sorry. You mean those people who sit down and mechanical meditation, is right?
Yes. The devotees don't go through all this. We are describing. We are describing how, in meditation there are two types. There is the Vishwarupa meditating devotee, Vishwarupa meditating yogi, and there is also the Paramatma meditating yogi. So for the Paramatma meditating yogi, within his life itself, he can directly achieve liberation and go to the spiritual world very fast. He doesn't have to go through this gradual step-by-step process. But for one who is not able to come to the Paramatma meditation, he has to meditate on the Vishwarupa. Then only he can even elevate himself. But he's not pure yet. So therefore, he has to go through a gradual process because he's not pure. His mind, he's still interested in material enjoyment. So due to this, he has to gradually still go through the different parts. He's given a chance to further purify himself. So first he goes to the fire planet, he purifies himself from the gross elements, and then he comes to higher, then he sees the Sishumara, he worships the Sishumara, and then he finally reaches Brahmaloka. And then he remains in Brahmaloka for so many billion, trillions of years. And after that only, next we will hear about what happens to him, what he needs to do in order to achieve liberation. So that is for the long process, Prabhu, not for the devotees. But we want to hear about this because, number one, we want to know the difficulty in the other steps, the other processes, so we can appreciate our devotional process very nicely. And secondly, so that, it's information for us. We need to know all this. And it is also conditioning our mind. Bhagavatam is arranged in such a way so that these descriptions are not ordinary. It helps us to, as we hear these descriptions, it is removing some things in some dirty things in our mind. So we know this already now. So even if Maya tempts us in the future in our devotional service, we won't get tempted with all these things. So that's the whole idea. Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. I
Hare
now
Krishna.
understand.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribo. Any other questions? This is important. Sometimes we take devotional service very cheaply. We don't realize how wonderful this is. That's why Prabhupada says this is the bhakti lift of love. It's the bhakti lift. Instead of going through the stairs, the elevation, this is meant for other people who cannot accept Krishna, who cannot surrender to the Lord. So, but if we can only surrender to the Lord, the process is so much faster and so much more wonderful. So, we need to hear all these things so that we don't get carried away or we don't get bewildered when somebody comes and presents dhyana yoga, or, when somebody comes with mystic powers. Devotees are not impressed by all these things. So our tattva must be so strong that we do not get enamored, that we don't get disturbed by these things. Our focus is not wavering. So that's why step by step we need to hear all these things, so that ultimately then we can have a very firm bhakti. So only Krishna. I don't want anything else. Right? So that's the step by step. All right. So thank you very much. I think we can stop here. If there's any further questions, you can put it in the chat or you can WhatsApp me. Right? So Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Right. Thank you,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you so much. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks.